We would have had everybody be outside, but it was just weather, a little bad. If you go back 1 year ago, it wasn't just the swearing in of President Joe Biden. It was the majority of the Democrats having Congress and then having the Senate. One party, socialist rule for 1 year. No one thought we could do that much damage in that short amount of time. I listened to the president yesterday for nearly 2 hours. For 2 hours, he blamed everyone but himself. Biden used to say the buck stopped with him, but not anymore. This isn't about the president. This isn't about the Democrats. This should be about America. The Americans out there, they've worked hard. They've gone through a pandemic, a rough economy. You would think they would focus on them. But the Democrats' very first bill, H.R. 1, the one they put the most importance on, was surely only about the Democrats maintaining power. If we look at the accomplishments, we got an economy that is damaged. We got cities and streets that are dangerous. We have adversaries that feel emboldened. Is that a good song? I thought it was Lee Greenwood. We got a border that's not secure. It's not just 1.8 million people coming here illegally. It's the fentanyl that's coming across. It starts in China and comes into America. It doesn't stop along the border cities. It goes to every reach in every city across America. There's enough fentanyl in America today to kill every single person 7 times over. Or maybe you ask the question, not just would the president or vice president go visit the problem, but where are these people coming from? 160 different countries. There are people that are on the terrorist watch list that have been caught coming across this border. Why are they coming here? Who are they talking to? And what do they have planned? We watched another year where our schools are being shut. We go into the grocery stores in America and you wonder where you are because there's nothing there to buy. But a president who brags about what he did with the supply chain. Ships are still waiting on the outskirts of California. We pay more for gasoline with the projections only to go higher. The answer from the Democrats and the majority is to look to OPEC, not to American workers who could make us energy independent, as we've proven before. This is what we've gotten in 1 year. But an interesting question that the president asked yesterday as he blamed everyone else. He asked, what are Republicans for? We want to answer that question for him. We're for kids in school. We're for food on the shelves. We're for America independence and energy, lowering the gas price so it doesn't harm us. We're for stopping runaway spending so we don't create inflation like they have. We're for a secure border with an immigration system that works. We're for a world that is safe. We want our streets back. We want security and we want safety. We don't want another headline what we read in California just this week. A young UCLA student. All the hopes and dreams of the future. Being murdered by somebody out on bail. Same majority that raised money to get people out on bail. I think America deserves better. And we will work with anyone that wants to do that. I was most concerned about not just the president continuing to blame everybody else, but I cannot imagine, based upon the president's own decisions on what he did in Afghanistan, to look the American public in the eye and, I quote, "I make no apologies for what I did." For what he did. He promised the American people he would not leave till all Americans were out. He closed Bagram first, let the prisoners out, and now we have 13 Gold Star families. They deserve an apology. The president said on Ukraine, a minor incursion. If you read the tweet today, the president of Ukraine, we want to remind the great powers that there are no minor incursions in small nations, just as there are no minor casualties and a little grief from the loss of loved ones. It's a one-year anniversary of the Democrats' control. It's also the 100th anniversary of the Soviet Union creation. With Putin wanting to put all the pieces back together again. Looking to the leader of the world with 2 hours offering the opportunity to go to Ukraine. Never in my life did I believe a president of the United States would say that. North Korea launches missiles again. Next month, the world will go to China for the Olympics to reward them for bringing in COVID and killing millions of people across this world. We can do much better. That's what this body believes, and this is what we'll work for. With that, let me open it up for questions. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, there's been a lot of bipartisan concern after President Biden's minor incursion comments yesterday. What should Congress's role be if Russia is to invade Ukraine?
The first thing you want to do is make sure and deter them not to invade. The only thing we've heard from the administration is things that would happen after you invade, and the president said a small incursion will be less than a big incursion. It shouldn't just be America. NATO and everybody else should stand up and say this is wrong. Do not let history repeat itself just when the Olympics is about to happen again. And Putin could sit on a world stage and said, Biden allowed it. I think we should speak with one voice. I watched in the Senate, you had one of the actions this president take was shutting down a pipeline in America, but opening one up for Putin. And then when there was a vote in the Senate, as 100,000 Russian troops are on the border of Ukraine, the administration joined with Russia to lobby to make sure that was defeated. I would have thought they would join together as Americans to make sure you sent a very clear message. So what should Putin read from this? That they'd even work to make sure they keep my pipeline, and then he said you can have a minor incursion. That is all the missteps. Has he learned nothing from Afghanistan? Just a few short months ago? Remember when he stood before the American public and said, oh no, the Army could sustain itself for long periods of time. But it's not just Biden who should be blamed. Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff took an intel committee and created it into a political committee. Why weren't they watching what was happening in Ukraine? Because they were more busy worrying about impeaching people. It's the entire Democrat majority. And what's so interesting, if you want to know if they're proud of what they've done, why are they setting new records with retirements? Because they don't want to stand up to the American public. They, too, don't want to say the buck stops with them. Yes, ma'am.
When you're talking about responding with NATO and everything, are you for sending combat troops, U.S. combat troops, to Ukraine if Russia does invade?
Russia doesn't. You know what you should do if you want Russia not to invade? Give them deterrent not to do it. You've got the ability to put weapons. You've got the ability to put individuals in a place that would say this would not be the place to come. Why are we talking about everything after they do it? Because after they do it, you can't put it back in the bottle. I would think we should speak with one voice. But the voice that the president said yesterday is not the voice I think any other American would speak with. That's right. Yes, sir.
So yesterday, the president, speaking on opposition from Republicans, asked, what are Republicans for? So your reaction to him saying Republicans are refusing to work across the aisle with this administration. Second question, are there...
Let's back up. Where did I say we refuse to walk across the aisle? So let me walk you through what has happened in the last year. The number of letters, first when the border became a major crisis because this president changed the executive orders. A number of us went down to the border, I believe, in February. At that instance, as we were working with the Border Patrol, seeing what was happening, we uncovered that there were people on the terrorist watch list that were being arrested. We said in a press conference, the Democrats challenged us, said I was lying. We found out it was true. We sent a letter to the president, since he's never been to the border except in his 40-some year of elected office, drove by San Antonio one day. We said, let us come down and meet with you. Didn't respond. In every single issue, not just the border, the mandates, the inflation, transportation, others, we said, let's meet and work with you, Mr. President. Because we listened to his words 1 year ago today where he said he would work with both sides, that he was going to be a president for all. No. Everything he has done is to have one-party rule, one side vote for it and deny. When he talks about Build Back Better, has he ever met with us about it? No. But please, go on with your question.
Well, that's the second part. Are there elements of Build Back Better that your caucus would support, like universal pre-K, for example?
Well, let's take an example of the president coming into office. Prior to the president in office, we were in a pandemic. Every single bill we did dealing with COVID was bipartisan. We sat in a room with leaders on the other side, administration, and we worked it all out. The minute he became president and they controlled the House and Senate, no longer were Republicans invited into the room. And what's the first thing they passed? Purely on partisan basis, $1.9 trillion. Put that in perspective. When the financial markets crashed and we needed to fund the economy, we were talking about $800 billion, $1.9 trillion after we had passed all the other bills, with only 9% going to COVID. They wanted to do it only on party rule. We warned them then that you would create inflation. 1 year later, we were right. 1 year later, when we need tests that he was going to promise, they weren't a part of that. More Americans have died from COVID last year than the year before, and we have vaccines. This is a president that quoted in his campaign, if you reached a certain level of casualties, the person shouldn't maintain being a president. Every action he's taken has been partisan. Every outcome, we have warned him prior to taking that action what would happen. Yes, sir.
Perhaps a question for the conference chairwoman, but
Sure.
over the last couple of years, a lot of members of the conference have been critical of the proxy voting, saying it wasn't right. But now you got members of the conference using the proxy voting. Have minds changed about whether it should be used or not?
You go right ahead.
These are rules that Nancy Pelosi has put into place without any discussion with Republicans. These are the rules of this House. One rule, another that is unprecedented, is not allowing all reporters in this room. She has run this institution like an authoritarian leader. When it comes to proxies, the Republican majority, and I don't want to speak for the leader here, but we believe in in-person voting. When Republicans win back the House, that's what we are committed to.
You have used the proxy voting, though, ma'am.
It's the rules of the House.
It's the rules of the House right now. So have a number of colleagues on both sides of the aisle. These are the rules that Nancy Pelosi sets. She sets the mask rule. She sets the magnetometer rules. I oppose both of those rules, but we use them. I use those rules because those are the rules that she has set. Thanks.
Let me tell you, when Nancy Pelosi took in the House, this Congress, she changed the rules of the House that never happened before. I think the American public, just as we honored those in the health field, the grocery store, the truck driver, that they would continue to work, I think they'd expect their leaders to work. What happens when you do proxy voting, and how it was created at the very beginning, is if you had a problem with COVID during that time period or others, what we have found is members use it for other reasons, but they're not here to work. She also passed a bill that for the first 4 months, no bills had to go through committee. She then also changed the rules that the minority could not have an amendment, a motion to recommit. All things that have been around for the history of Congress. Why? Who does it empower? Her. She has all the votes in her pocket. You don't take a bill through committee. You get greater control. So when we talk about 1 year with one party control, it's something that we've never seen happen before. I think people should show up to be paid. I think people should work together across the aisle. And if you're here, that's when you can make that happen. And fortunately, in the next year, we'll change that. Yes, sir.
Leader McCarthy, one thing that resulted from the big spending bill that Democrats did when Joe Biden first took office, with the checks and the monthly payments for parents, is a likely reduction in poverty, and especially child poverty. What do you think of that? How important is that in the context of the other economic things you've been talking about, like inflation and labor shortages?
You know what's interesting? You didn't mention what also happened with those checks? The Boston bomber got a check in jail. You know what the Republicans offered to make sure that didn't happen? But the Democrats said no. The amount of waste, when you go back and see, offered going through, we believed we had the data to help those small businesses that need it to be able to stay open and go. But they chose to allow prisoners to have checks, and we think that's wrong. So what we're for is to make sure more people can work, more people have prosperity, more kids can go to school. Back to school, back to health, back to safety. It's pretty simple. We just hope the president would agree with that as well. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Leader. On the Senate side, there seems to be some bipartisan momentum for reforming the Electoral Count Act. I think some members of your conference have also possibly expressed interest in doing that. So I was wondering if you could characterize how real that momentum is, what the likelihood of that is, and if there is support for it, is that in a way an acknowledgement that some members of the conference either abused or at least tried to get around it last year?
I'll take the end of your question first. No. Just like any bill out there, in every Congress we look, it's an old piece of law, so you can always modernize it in others, and there's nothing wrong with looking at any piece of legislation. I would think we'd look at a lot of things to make things accountable from that perspective. So thank you all very much. Have a good weekend.
Thanks.